Okay, so again, this research is being conducted, and it turns out, or the result here is, that the students who reread the passage had a brief edge over the students who were tested. So here we have the phrase to turn out. That means you have a result that you really weren't expecting. We often say this when we don't expect a certain result. It turns out a certain way. I expected her to come, but it turns out she actually went someplace else. I did not expect that.
Well, if you have an edge over someone, it means you have an advantage over them. Now, they had a brief edge over the students who were tested. So those who did get to read the passage 3 times remembered more than those who only read it once and then were tested 3 times. I hope you got that straight. Brief just means short or not very long or just very small too. It can mean all of those things. So they had a small edge, a tiny advantage, not a big one. Edge can mean different things, so it's kind of a cool word. For example, this would be the edge of the table. Or if you have a knife, the sharp part is the edge, which can cut you very easily. We're going to let you listen to some more definitions now. It's our word power word. Let's listen to more about edge.
Word power. Hi everybody, and welcome to Word Power. Our word for today is edge. Today, we read that the students who reread the passage had an edge over those who were tested. Here, edge is used as a noun, which means something that gives you an advantage over others. For example, a strong wrestler will have an edge over a weaker one. Edge can also mean the part of an object that is furthest from its center. For instance, Chris put the glass of milk on the edge of the table. Or, an edge can be the sharp part of a blade or tool that cuts. For instance, you shouldn't touch the edge of a knife with your hands. That's all for Word Power today. Thanks for listening.
Now again, it turns out that the students who got to reread the passage had a small edge or a brief edge over the students who were tested. So again, they seem to remember more about the passage than the people who were tested. However, when a test on the passage was given a week later, they had a slightly different result. The students who had been tested several times remembered much more than their counterparts. Counterpart, that's kind of a difficult word to explain here. It just means it's the other person or other groups of people that are involved in the same kind of situation as you are.
Yeah, maybe they have the same job that you have, but they're in a different place or in a different department, but they have similar responsibilities. Tom is my counterpart here at English for You. Well, it's interesting because the first time they tested these students, it was immediately after they'd read the passage. But the second time, they waited a week. So we're talking about the difference between short-term memory and long-term memory. And we're going to see how testing actually improves your long-term memory. Now remember, immediately afterwards, if you got to reread the passage 3 times, you did better. Your short-term memory was excellent. But if you waited a week, you weren't quite as good as those kids who tested but only read the passage once.
I guess you really weren't under enough pressure to try to remember that information, but I guess if you take a test, you're under pressure, and that pressure helps you remember that information for a longer period of time. So it sounds to me like taking tests is actually good for you.
Yeah, it does. Now this shows, the results here show, that tests are a great way to keep information locked in your brain where it belongs. Information can be lots of different things. We often talk about information just being little facts that you learned or data that you picked up. Things that you learn in school is also called information. If you know how to apply it and use it, it becomes knowledge. Well, if you keep information locked in your brain, that's exactly where it should be. That's where it belongs. And that's what belongs means. That's where it should be. It's the right place for the information. It's hard to keep information in your brain too long, but if you test, you'll do better.
And remember, information is a non-count noun, so please don't add an S to it. Informations is wrong.
Yeah.
How much information do you know about that thing? And again, it should be in your brain where it should be, where it belongs. Okay, now it's time, everybody, to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we will be right back.